Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about a little project we've made to test passive components using Flowcode App Developer. This was a project I started a while back, and Medalec35 on the Matrix forums has taken this a bit further, so I just wanted to make a little video to talk about what he's done and to show what it's capable of doing. This is my Arduino Uno. And what I've done is I've taken the SCADA slave firmware from the Flowcode wiki page and I've loaded that onto the Arduino. I've then taken Martin's app developer program, I've exported it to a runtime, and this is what you can see in the background here. So you can see that there is a little schematic. There are some resistor values which are set over here via the properties. There's a COM port, so this is the COM port to connect to my Arduino. And you can see that on the actual hardware I've replicated the circuit, so I've got D2 to D7 coming through and across to here on one side of my breadboard. I've got my resistors, so there's three sets of 470k, and there's also three sets of 1.5k. Now if you don't have those exact values of resistors, then obviously as long as you've got high value and a low value, then you can enter your values of resistors in here, and it's best to actually sort of measure the resistors using like a decent multimeter to get the actual, as near as possible, values of those resistors and enter them in here anyway, and then that helps to calibrate the board and to give you better end results. On the other side I've got my A1 to A3 analog pins, and they're wired through to the other sides of the resistors. You can see that there's a bit of a there's a crossover here, so there's a bit of a twist. So I think on this side blue is A1, and it starts on this side and it comes over to this side here. Then I've also got my A1 to A3 wired over to here to a blank area of the breadboard, just to allow me a bit of room to start plugging components in. So this works with resistors, capacitors, transistors and diodes. So they're the four components we can currently test. So if I go to my, I've got currently a capacitor connected in. It can be connected across any three of the pins. For polarized caps, the positive side should be on a lower pin. So the positive could be on A1, and the negative on A2, or the positive could be on A2 and the negative on A3. It just gives a better result. So if I run the program now, and let's bring up the console view. Just going to move the window across to the side. We've got a component test results tab. So if I test the component, then it sees it's a capacitor, it does a discharge curve, and then it does a charge curve, and then from that it works out the capacitance. And over here in the test results, it gives us the value of capacitor. If I repeat the test, so let's bring back up my camera. If I repeat the test for a transistor, so this is a tip 41C, just pop that into my breadboard. And test component. Then it detects it as an NPN transistor, and it gives us the E, B and C connections and which pin they're connected to. So a nice little thing to tell, is the transistor working and how is it wired up. We've also got this button, which is hardware diagnostics. And this basically allows you to check to see if your rig's wired up correctly. So this will determine if your resistor values are wildly out, or it'll determine if you've, say, got your connections wired back to front. You see, initially this twist here I've neglected to put in, and this hardware diagnostics lets me know that it's wired wrong. One of the nice things about this is that all of the source is available, so that the source for the SCADA slave firmware that's running on the actual Arduino is available, as well as the Flowcode component that drives that, as well as the code for this component tester project. So what you could do is you could say, if you had a batch of resistors, you could go through that batch and get things like the minimum resistance, the maximum resistance, the tolerance across the batch, the extremities. You could do things like making improved R2R DACs or things. You could also go down the route of automating this, so rather than having a button, you could have it have a component automatically loaded onto a test probe, automatically checked, and then valid samples going through and non-valid samples being kicked off. So there's quite a bit of scope for expansion of this project, but we think it's quite a nice view as to what you can do with the app developer software combined with the Flowcode embedded programming. I've been Ben Rowland. This has been a project by me, Ben Rowland, and by Martin Whitlock, Medlec35 on the Matrix forums. So there's many thanks to him. This has been all done with Flowcode version 9. Thanks very much for watching.